May I have attention, please? Now, we'd like to start the second session of this contest. The honorable judges will enter this room. Please stand up and welcome them with a big hand. Please be seated.
Let us welcome the sixth speaker. The sixth speaker is Ms. Miki Fujito. Her speech title is Difficulty of Fishing Without a Fish Hook. Difficulty of Fishing Without a Fish Hook. So, Ms. Fujito, please slosh with the word and splash your world.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, distinguished judges, questioners, and of course, the audiences. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please close your eyes and imagine what I say. Imagine there's a bunch of people who are running out of fish. They need fish, but they don't know how to fish. You have two ways to help them. One, give them fish or materials to fish with. Or two, teach them how to fish, enabling them to fish for themselves in the future. Now consider the answer you think is better. Thank you. Now, how many of you here today thought that giving fish or materials to fish with was a better solution? Then how many thought teaching how to fish was better? I think a lot of you here today would answer that teaching is more worthwhile than giving fish and fishing materials, because I was one of the many thinking that teaching how to fish was more valuable than merely giving fish and fishing materials. As the saying goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. I thought that giving materials might solve the problem temporarily, but not in the long term. Now let me move on to the main topic of my presentation. I had a dream. I had a dream of working in the United Nations because I wanted to contribute to a world without poverty issues. I had a dream of volunteering and helping people who were running out of food. To fulfill my dream, I wondered whether donating products and money or volunteering would be the best way. But as I mentioned earlier, materials are just a temporary solution. So I chose to volunteer. And that was why I went to Tanzania as a public health volunteer this summer. I volunteered at a free medical clinic, and the main duty there was to hand out medicine which the doctor prescribed to patients. But one day, during spare time from a walk, I had an experience that changed my whole way of thinking. That day, I had the opportunity to witness a woman's medical examination. The examination was completely ordinary at the beginning, but a short time later, the doctor said to that torn-clothed patient, "Didn't you have an examination at the nearby hospital?" Then, she looked down as if she had committed a crime. Apparently, she had had a medical examination before this at another dispensary. In that hospital, the doctor examined her for free and told her which prescription pills she would need, but she had to pay for the medicine by herself. Since she was raised in a poor family, she had no financial leeway to buy the medicine. Therefore, she came to a free medical clinic which provided medicines for free. However, her condition had gotten worse, and the situation had become so serious that it was impossible to treat her only with medicine. What's more surprising was that she wasn't the only one who came to our clinic in this kind of situation. After that day in the work, our doctor told us, "I'm not trying to be mean to you, but your support can actually lead us into greater difficulty." He said to us that even if we give free medicines today, many other patients will be visiting the dispensary expecting the medicine for free. But since the amount and the variety of medicines we have are limited, even though the examinations are done, the patient will not be able to overcome their disease. His word and this experience made me realize for the first time how important material assistance is. People who examine the disease without charge and prescribe medicine, just like the doctor who I worked with, are of course important and indispensable, but the problem starts when we run out of medicine, as it did this summer. I've come to realize that the doctor's kindness of giving free examination might be in vain without medication. Furthermore, it might actually lead to worsening medical conditions. But well, as I said at the beginning, I used to think that teaching how to fish was more useful in order to catch fish. But through this experience, which I had never had in Japan, I learned that even if we teach people how to fish, they can't fish unless they have the materials to do so. For example, is it possible for people to fish without fish hooks? Probably not. If we apply this example back to poverty issues, what plays the role of fish hook is material assistance. Now recently, global communities are moving towards solving many international problems, not only with regards to poverty, but in reaching the new global sustainable development goals. In these goals, I'm certain that there are many places still lacking material assistance, just like the medical experience I had in Tanzania. Physical support can be covered by many volunteers. And I feel like more and more people who are aspiring to contribute in international issues are thinking that volunteering is the only important thing. But to those, I want to say that volunteering is not actually everything. Material assistance is just as important, if not more so. Now I have a new dream. Of course, what I want to do hasn't changed. I want to contribute to a world without poverty issues. But the how has changed. I'll be the one establishing a new method of material assistance and leading everyone to know how material assistance is important and help them realize how they can assist by sending materials and money. So back to what I spoke at the beginning of my presentation. If there is a bunch of people who were running out of fish, how would you help them? Do you give them fish, or do you teach them fish? Do you teach them how to fish? Or do you give them fish? Do you give them materials like fish hooks? You know what I'm hoping for. And if there's more people who think like me, I've succeeded in my first tiny little duty to make people realize that material assistance is just as important as material assistance. Thank you.
Now we have a question and answer session. Mr. Katayama, please.
Ms. Fujito. You have gained a valuable first-hand experience to recognize the monetary or material assistance with immediate effects are as important as providing a more fundamental support for a long-term cure of the problem. I guess Japan, you are saying that Japan should help these countries in need toward both ends. But for, say, budgetary reasons, if we have to choose either one, which do you think we should prioritize over the other, and why?
That's a really difficult question, but I think I would choose to do material assistance because if you material assist someone, then it means like even though you're not taught by someone, you can by looking at that material, you can have an idea how to use them. But on the other hand, physical support, just as what I said in the presentation, even you're taught by someone, if you don't have the things to do, then you can't actually survive from the problem you're suffering right now. So I think if I had to choose either of the way, I think I would choose material assistance.
I see. The second question is, there are some critical opinions to such international assistance that long-continued economic helps from other country tends to make people there more dependent on foreign aid and turn them less diligent. How do you feel about such viewpoint through your own experience?
Well, actually, I do agree in certain point of view. But from my experience, which I went to Tanzania, if you don't give something or if you don't support them, the thing doesn't happen. For example, in Tanzania, I also had an opportunity to listen to an organization that was who were trying to help the poverty issues in Tanzania, and I think that was called CNAE, Community Nutrition and Associating Education. And their job, since in Tanzania, about 34% of 0-year-old infant to 5-year-old children are suffering from malnutrition, and also 2.7 children in Tanzania are malnourished. And their job was to basically held in easy comprehensive test to them and check if they have like a deficiency. But the problem for them was that, but it was actually not going well. That thing was not going well, and that was because there isn't. If they were diagnosed as malnutrition, they were allowed to get a therapeutic food. But because the government didn't have enough therapeutic food, the citizens started to feel that they don't really have to go to. They gradually started to feel that it's not necessary to go to that assessment. So they gradually, so it kind of created a vicious circle. So even though people say that it's important, the country has to be independent. But first, you have to depend on someone. Otherwise, you can't be independent in the future. So I think the first thing that's important is to get the support from other countries, and then try to eventually become dependent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Katayama.